A badge of honor. Police officers and first responders wear badges to let their communities know they are here to protect and serve. But that's not how it feels today, and the stress of the job is taking its toll, taking lives through suicide and post-traumatic stress injury. A Badge of Honor podcast features the cast of the same name, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno. Sam, John, and the team offer the first responders workshops through their critical incident stress management teams and mental health liaisons to offer state-certified T-Cole credit programs that save lives. It's time to smash through the stigma. It's time to heal from your injury, and it's time to back our blue. Welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast. Here are your hosts, Sam Horwitz and John Salerno.
Hey, welcome everybody to A Badge of Honor podcast with John and Sam. I am Sam. We are minus John because John is doing something totally awesome. I got to get the same hookup that he has. So John is spreading the word of hope and healing for first responders and veterans on a very special cruise called the High Seas Rally. Brings together law enforcement, motorcycle clubs from really across the world that will come here to the United States, and they leave out of Tampa. But with that, all of the law-abiding motorcycle clubs. I can only imagine the parties at night, but John is out there doing the amazing work that we do here at A Badge of Honor, spreading the word about the podcast, as well as just the important message that, just we are here for you. We understand you are definitely not alone in your journey, and there's always one more move. So, things may be cloudy, but behind the clouds, there's always light. So whether it's just thinking about staying for one more second, a minute, go minute by minute if that's what it takes, but reach out because we love you and we're praying for you guys every single day. We want to thank OBBM Network. And, healing is a personal journey. And as you've heard John and I say before, there's not one right way. We've talked about our therapy journeys. My EMDR and my therapist worked for me. John, it didn't do so well, but he found that equine therapy works for him. And it really is allowing yourself to, kind of giving yourself over and allowing yourself to walk out whatever your journey is, because we don't compare trauma. We just want you to have the best resources out there. And tonight is no different. We have got Chad DePew. He happens to be a police chief, but he is also the founder of an amazing organization called Heroic Deeds. Chad, welcome to A Badge of Honor podcast.
Hey, Sam, thank you. After hearing you talk, I feel like I shouldn't be here. You should just keep going with whatever you're talking about there. That's awesome.
No, it's we titled the show tonight, Heroic Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. Okay, I'm an AC/DC fan.
Yeah, there you go.
When you see your logo, kind of if you grew up at the same time and you love AC/DC, it starts playing. But, before we get into that, what it means, deeds done dirt cheap, let's talk about your background. And so tell everybody watching and listening on their favorite podcast app about you and how you founded Heroic Deeds.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And it sounds like John's having a good time. So hope he enjoys that. Yeah, so my name's Chad DePew. I am a police chief here in the Dayton, Ohio area. Been in law enforcement a little over 23 years now. And I'm the co-founder of Heroic Deeds nonprofit. We started Heroic Deeds about 3 years ago. Our three tenets are mental, physical, spiritual well-being. And really our emphasis is on that spiritual side, particularly faith. And that's what we really focus all of our efforts on, just really filling that gap in a lot of the training and education that's out there for first responders around officer wellness, well-being, mental, emotional health. All those things are really finally starting to become current and really taking hold in our police and fire agencies, and that's incredible. But we want to add that element of faith because we think that is the most important element of that conversation, making sure that we are centered in our faith, we're grounded in Christ, and all those other things are amazing tools to have in our toolboxes. But we think faith is that cornerstone to being whole and being happy.
Absolutely. I am a firm believer that it's difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult to do things without having your faith right there. And for a lot of first responders, when bad things happen or they pile up, I'll speak for me after 9/11, and watching so many people die, it was, I was pretty angry at God, I got to tell you. And, he and I had some heated conversations. And it was the beginning of my faith journey to find my way back to realize, I'm the one that left the table, right? So he's always got a seat for you at the table. You just have to be willing to sit down. But trauma really can send people into a tailspin where, they start questioning, hey, I put my life on the line every day. I'm a good cop. I'm a good firefighter. I'm a good nurse, whatever your profession is. I save people's lives. And this is the repayment. Like I feel broken. How do you help people make that faith walk back?
Yeah, it's tough, right? And you hit the nail on the head there. That's a question that a lot of first responders struggle with. And that is, if God is real, if Jesus loves me like you say he does, then why do bad things happen to good people? Why have I seen the things that I've seen? And why do I feel the way that I feel? Because most of us, like you said, we feel we're good people. There's very few, if any, first responders that didn't get into the profession because they didn't have a heart for helping people. They wanted to make that difference. So when they see that emotional toll impacting them for the good deeds that they've done, they start to ask those questions. And that's tough, right? That's really tough. But it's also 100% normal. And that's kind of our message as first responders. The way you feel and those questions, those are normal, right? And what we're here to do is just let them know that there's a better way than simply living in those struggles or making your diagnosis your identity, right? There's freedom in Christ and there's healing from that trauma. No, we can't promise that any of those things will ever make sense, but that's where faith comes to play. That I can't make sense of this. I don't understand why these bad things have happened to others. I don't understand why these bad things have happened to me, but I trust God is in the details, and I trust that God has a plan. So it's really a message of hope. And for those who feel that way, who feel they're just at the end of the rope, that there's just no light, no hope out there for them, what have you got to lose, right? Let's talk about faith. Let's talk about what the Bible says about these issues. And it's funny, you talked about having some angry conversations with God. Well, if you read the Bible, there's a lot of people in the Bible having angry conversations with God, right? Because we're all human. Being a Christian is about being perfect, because we'll never be perfect, but it's about being obedient. It's about putting our faith in Christ. He can bring us through these circumstances and provide the healing that we all desperately want.
Now, did you grow up in a spiritual family, or did you find this later?
Yeah, I tell you, I was very blessed. There's a lot of first responders who experienced childhood trauma, and a lot of them, that's kind of a motivator for getting in to public safety. I was very blessed. I grew up in a Christian home. Mom was a teacher for 35 years. Our dad was a probation officer and an executive director of a correctional facility. So he was in that correction space as a first responder, both just very good Christian people. Growing up, church was a priority. I remember just even in the small things. So, being in Dad's role, especially, he was, on call all the time, worked a lot. So on the weekends in the summertime, he had a boat. He liked spending time on the boat. But I remember Sunday mornings was a deal breaker. We don't go on the boat until we go to church, right? So just grew up in a good Christian home, which really gave me a solid foundation myself. And, I look back at particularly my dad's career as a first responder in probation and in corrections, which is not an easy field, dealing with the folks he dealt with day in and day out. Just his faith and his Christian foundation really helped him, come out of that healthy, out of that 40-year career that he had healthy, right? And with his faith intact. So both my parents really modeled that for us. And so I'm blessed I had that as an example. And it's funny, I'll hear people ask me or say to others, well, I don't know how you can be a cop and be a Christian. I don't know how you can be a cop and not be a Christian, because if I didn't have my faith, I don't know how I'd make sense of the things that we all see, that we all deal with. I don't know how to be able to make sense of it. So I that's the message I want to get out to folks. It's like, my faith, it gives me no more answers than what you have, but it's given me faith that God's in control and that he wants me to just honor him and walk in obedience. So yeah, I was very blessed to grow up in a household that really demonstrated faith-based principles.
And that's it. That's very interesting. We got to take our first break. When we come back, that just struck me is like, I don't know how you can be a Christian and be a cop. We'll explore that question when we come back from our first break. Stay tuned, everybody. We'll be right back.
Move freely, America, without medical restrictions or penalty. Without medical freedom legislation in place, our rights and freedoms are one vote away from being dissolved. Move freely, America, with one voice, without fear of retribution, achieving a common goal, medical freedom. We the people make our voices heard by connecting with state legislators and engaging a constitutionally compliant medical Bill of Rights for all citizens. Individually, change is improbable, but as an aggregate, attainable. It's time to act with one voice. My voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
And my voice.
To protect our freedom, creating one voice that cannot be ignored. This requires your voice, too. Move Freely America. Go to movefreelyamerica.org to find a chapter near you. Plug in, donate, and help our legislators defend our God-given rights under the Constitution. Move Freely America. My voice.
And my voice.
And together with your voice, we're one voice that cannot be ignored. Donate today. MoveFreelyAmerica.org.
Hey, welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast sponsored by the OBBM Network. We are talking with Chad DePew, co-founder of heroicdeeds.org. When we left off, Chad, you made a very interesting statement, and I've never heard anybody say that, but let's explore that because it's interesting. So you said you've heard before people say, I don't know how you're a Christian and a cop. What? Help me out with that.
Yeah. And it's funny. I talked to several of my friends and colleagues who are, also Christian first responders, and they've heard the same question, which is good, right? I suppose it's good that the folks we're working with see that we're Christians and don't think the opposite. Well, why in the world did that guy ever go to church, right? So maybe that's a good thing that it's noticed. But yeah, I've been asked that question several times. And I think part of that is simply because those of us in the trenches, when you're on scene, when you're seeing that death and destruction, and faith is not a part of your life, it's hard to even understand how that's possible. Because I think too oftentimes for those who aren't Christians, they'll put, maybe faith or Christianity or those who go to church like on a pedestal. As if Christians are perfect, or as if Christians don't have problems in their lives, or as if Christians aren't broken and messed up just like everybody else, right? I always tell folks, a church isn't a country club, it's a hospital, right? It's those, everybody is broken, damaged, has experienced trauma in some way, shape, or form, and going to church is where we find that healing. So I think maybe part of that is just a misunderstanding of how faith interacts in a Christian's life, a Christian's first responder's life, for that matter.
Interesting. I have, we do an 8-hour interactive workshop with first responders from we've been in a lot of different departments. And one of the things that have come up a couple of times is when we talk about mindfulness, and it's like, we're not going to do any of that woo-woo meditation stuff because my faith doesn't allow me to do that. And, I find that interesting too, because I study both, I grew up Jewish. So I am Jewish. I didn't switch. But I understand both sides. So I have the Old Testament into the New Testament, and no matter which one you read, it is the word meditation is like all over the place. And you will, meditate on my word, for I am thee, and so I always found that kind of interesting. Now we can say, hey, we're on to you. So you cannot
Right.
use that as an excuse to leave the workshop. But let's talk about, because you mentioned with going to crime scenes and seeing the ugly side, and getting down and dirty in that. Heroic deeds done dirt cheap. Dirt cheap. Let's explore that a little bit, because I love how you put it on your website.
More than just AC/DC reference, right? And real quick on the whole mindfulness thing, it's funny. We can connect to Christ and our faith in a lot of ways, and some people do that through meditation, exercise, yoga, whatever it may be, right? So it is whatever you make of it. So don't let them use that as an excuse next time. But yeah, our motto, heroic deeds done dirt cheap. Again, more than just an AC/DC reference. We want to think of something recognizable, or at least first responders could connect with. And we came up with done dirt cheap because that describes the acts of first responders really short and sweet. They do all these things that create PTS, trauma, dysfunction within them. They do it for no recognition. They do it for no additional pay. They do it because they took an oath to serve and protect. So those acts that they do, we say, are done dirt cheap for those reasons. They're not celebrated. You think of, throughout your own career, and certainly all the first responders listening, think of the car accidents you've been on, the death scenes, all those things. You didn't get recognized. Most of us didn't get recognized for those things. Most of us dealt with that. We talked to the families, victims involved with care and compassion. What do? We cleared it and we went right on to the next call. So that's where done dirt cheap comes into play, because first responders do all these things, these acts of bravery, all these acts of heroism for no rewards, no recognition, no special pay. So we say they're done dirt cheap.
But it is perfect, and it does describe exactly the day-to-day. Speaking of day-to-day, with the background grounded in faith that you guys have, you have a chaplain program. And I think it's important to highlight, because any department you go to, big or small, they tend to have chaplains, whether it's a sworn officer or whether it's a retired officer that comes back, whether it's a seasoned officer, as we like to call them, not the old guy.
Yeah.
Or it's the pastor, if it's a real small department that maybe only has a few officers, and most of them are reserve.
Yeah.
How did you decide to kind of bring them alongside, and now you're ready to expand, as I understand?
Yeah. Let me back up just a step, if you don't mind. I'll try to keep a long story short if I can. But when we started the nonprofit in 2021, we did that because we saw what was happening just in society around us. 2021, we're a year on the heels of COVID, a year on the heels of the George Floyd incident, year of rioting, protesting, defund the police movement. And by about that time, we started to see some of the damaging aftermath of all that in first responders. One, we had a lot of first responders just leaving the field in droves, right? I'm tired of this. I'm done. I'm out of here. And that left everybody still on duty, working copious amounts overtime, being short-staffed, burned out, stressed out, all those things. And in addition to all those, we started seeing the personal impacts on those responders of lack of sleep, stressed out, burned out, things like addiction, suicide rates increasing, just all these awful things happening. And so my brother and I at the time were having a conversation, and we had just posed the question to ourselves, what can we do about that? So my brother at the time was a sheriff's deputy out in California. And although we didn't have any answers, we knew the difference for us was Christ. And so we wanted to create a training environment where we could connect first responders to Christ, where we would talk about things like mental and emotional wellness. We'd address the psychological impact. We'd talk about the value in things like EMDR, equine therapy, counseling, all those things, but always have Christ at the center of those conversations. Because as I indicated earlier, all those things are phenomenal tools in your toolbox. And those are certainly things that can benefit people. But our message is, you need to be connected to Christ first, have a foundation in your faith before you'll truly experience happiness and peace. So that led to, in 2022, we had our first ever Responders in Faith conference. So the Responders in Faith conference is our annual event, and not knowing what would happen, not knowing if anybody would show up. We had over 220 there for our first one, and it's grown ever since. Not only do we talk about those topics, we encourage the responders coming to bring their spouse, bring their boyfriend, girlfriend, just whoever their support system is. Because if we're talking about things like PTS, warning signs of suicide, if we're talking about all these things that impact first responders, we need more than just the responders in the room. We need whoever their support system is, the person at home, their friend, whoever is going to see these warning signs first, they need to be there with them, walking alongside and learning with them. I believe it was at our conference last year. Throughout the event, I had 4 different male police officers introduce their parents to me. They brought their parents to our conference. Single, they lived at home, and they said, my parents need to hear what I'm going through. So that's where we also try to be different. We want, again, those family, friends, whomever, as their support to come alongside with them and experience that together. And what we've seen through that is just a deeper understanding from the side of the responders' family, because a statement we hear often in first responder relationships is they don't understand me. They have no idea what I've been through, no idea what I've experienced. And that's mainly because most of us, we don't talk about what we go through. We don't talk about what we experience. So certainly we are our own worst enemy in that regard. But when we bring our loved ones, our friends, whomever that is, to an event like that, it opens the door wide open to those conversations.
Oh, and it is so important because our family serves right alongside that. And if you are just joining us on the podcast, we are talking to Chad DePew. He's a co-founder of Heroic Deeds, and we will be right back to continue the conversation after these messages. Stay tuned, everybody.
Interested in starting a podcast or TV show? Worried about what you'll say and how to keep it engaging? Think you'd like to be a guest on podcast, radio, or TV shows? Hi, I'm Susan Hamilton, owner and founder of OBBM Network, and I would like to invite you to an OBBM media training to get the tools you need for a relaxed and polished performance you'll be proud to share. Our specialized training techniques include role play, voice training, and everything you need to deliver a confident, clear, and engaging interaction. Go to offbeatbusiness.com. Go to the calendar and register for a training that's convenient for you. Dates available now, 214-714-0495.
Welcome back to A Badge of Honor podcast. We are talking with Chad DePew. Thank you, OBBM, for your sponsorship and all of the amazing work that you do with all of us in the podcast space. Chad, when we left off, we were talking about the importance of family understanding our jobs and what we do best, which is not include them.
That's right.
So you create a space yearly. Let's talk about, though, beyond that, because people are going to leave your conference with obviously way more tools in their toolbox. The family's going to know. It's kind of like we say, the curtain is open. Everything is revealed. What would you say, to those who have not attended your conference, to help them open up to their families and include them in the tough days that, we may see?
Yeah. I would encourage them, one, to just come to an event like ours or something similar and bring that spouse, whoever that is, with them. It's funny, our first event, I remember she was a firefighter wife. We've been married 27 years, and this is the first time I've ever gone to anything work related with him. And so what that has led to is so we have like a spousal group we now run on Facebook, just connecting all the spouses. So it's been really amazing to see those people who are the support system for first responders networking with one another and supporting each other. And because like you said earlier, they're first responders too. They're in the ride with us there. So that's the challenge is, we get these folks at an event like ours. And so it's a 2-day event. So what about the other 363 days of the year, right? How do we continue to connect with them, engage them? So a couple of things that we've worked on. Our biggest initiative now is our first responder chaplain program. So a chaplain program really was not on our short list of initiatives, but it quickly became one. And really after our conference back in 2023, we had a large number of first responder chaplains attend, and they were just craving additional content like what we were providing. Because, here in Ohio, where we are in particular, we have a lot of rural police agencies, a lot of rural fire agencies. And I recently learned in the state of Ohio anyway, there's not a single full-time police chaplain on staff anywhere.
Wow.
And, we're not as big as Texas, but some of our major cities are pretty large police departments, 1,500, 2,000 officers. And none of them have a full-time police chaplain. As a matter of fact, one of the biggest agencies in the state recently just created a chaplain budget, which is incredible, but it's $5,000 for an agency of well over 1,000 staff members.
Yeah, that doesn't
So
work.
what we see here, at least in our area, a lot of these chaplains are volunteers. Like you said earlier, some of them are retired police officers, retired firefighters who've become chaplains. Some of them are pastors at local churches donating their time and a portion of their ministry. So it's really difficult for individuals like that to find high quality training, or certainly anything that's local. There's a lot of good chaplain training out there, but again, if their department doesn't have a budget, they'd have to pay out of pocket to go for things out of state. There's some incredible programs in Texas, actually, but it's tough for these volunteer folks to be able to afford to do that, or certainly for their agency. So we created a chaplain conference this year. We called it Shepherding the Sheepdogs. So if you think about how do we engage these first responders, or how do we be a support system for them throughout the year, it's that departmental chaplain. These men and women who are boots on the ground, who are in the police departments and firehouses and the jails already. How can we help train and equip them to go out there and spread not only, our mission, but mainly the mission of faith and the mission of Christ, and be that resource for them continually. So we had 62 chaplains come through for our first event this year, which is really encouraging. And we have he's volunteer, but he's doing a phenomenal job. He's just running with our chaplain program. So we're working on putting together another conference in 2025 for chaplains. And we're working on putting together some classes and some certifications for those chaplains as well.
That's fantastic. And you talked about the ongoing support, and sometimes we need to understand as first responders that it really is up to us to take that step, that leap of faith, whatever you want to call it, to help ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
It's easy to fall into the trap of just, I'll call it the depression, and we're using different things to self-medicate. You all created an online program. Can you talk a little bit about that for the first responders to connect?
Absolutely. So because again, we're looking for ways to engage them and just create content and space for them to talk about their faith. The last 2 years, we've written devotionals, and devotionals, they're written by first responders for first responders. So our authors are people who've been to our events, some of our board members, all again, active or former first responders. And both of those devotionals actually have a 6-week study component to them. And so what we've done at the end of our conference last 2 years is we've ran those devotionals via Zoom for those who want to stay engaged. And it's really like a train the trainer. If somebody attends one of our Zoom sessions on that, they are really equipped to go back to their PD or firehouse and offer that devotional or run that themselves. So we're really trying to grow that as well. And you hit on a good point. It's because I have a heart for first responders and I want to see that hope and healing happen. I think, man, what can we do to really be there 365 days out of the year? But in reality, we have to make sure we're giving them tools because we also need to help ourselves. I stumbled upon, completely unrelated to even this podcast, I stumbled on some research this morning that talked about psychological body armor, and it defined resilience in two categories: proactive and reactive. Reactive is simply our reaction to some type of critical event. Proactive is us investing in ourselves, training and equipping ourselves to better manage those crises, those traumatic events as they come. So we're less likely to be susceptible to things like depression, post-traumatic stress. And what's fascinating about that study, a key component was the integration of faith. And this study specifically for first responders, but it talked about those with faith were able to really build up that proactive resilience at a much higher rate than those who didn't.
Oh, that's fascinating. Do you remember the name of that study or where you got it from?
I haven't said I'm going to post that on our website because I think there's a lot of value in it. So
Okay.
I'll post it on our website because it's a phenomenal article, and they're really examining, specifically, they studied CISM trained first responders and their reactions it was a comparison of those who had faith in their lives and those who didn't, and compare the outcomes. Really fascinating.
Yeah, it sounds fascinating. So for those of you listening on your favorite podcast app, I put the website up. It's heroicdeeds.org. We got to take our next break. We will be right back to talk more with Chad. Stay tuned, everybody.
Look, when you need to respond to an aggressive situation to protect yourself, your family, or your property, understanding your firearm and legal position are critical. Officers know your skills are only as good as your commitment to training. So know what you're doing. So when you're in a vulnerable situation, we can count on your response. Whether you're a beginner or a licensed gun carrier, Carry in Texas offers basic firearms training, Texas permitless carry courses, license to carry, and basic 2A courses so you can understand the responsibilities, situational awareness, and learn the technical skill required when you carry your firearm. Go to carryintexas.com to find the right course for you. Join me, former United States Secret Service agent Samantha Horwitz, on the range for beginner basics, LTC prep, and range practice. Go to carryintexas.com today. That's carryintexas.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to a Badge of Honor podcast. I am Sam. John's on vacay doing good stuff. And thank you to the OBBM network. We are talking with Police Chief Chad DePew and his organization called Heroic Deeds. Chad, you all have done, you must have a phenomenal marketing arm. I'm just going to say that because everything that you promote from on your the AC/DC, the play on the AC/DC song, to your logo, to the way that you advertise faith on your website and the courses, to how people can support in a very creative way. You have, I'll call it swag. We have coffee. How did you decide to bring that into the mix?
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that. So when we started early on, we knew for our organization to be successful, we knew the content would be good, right? We had faith in that, but it's how do we reach first responders in a way that's culturally meaningful, right? And to do that, we knew we had to, as far as graphics and some design work and things, like we had to kind of run in that lane of like a grunt style or black rifle, because if you post cops and firefighters, what kind of t-shirts are they wearing? Patriotic shirts that are kind of cool, kind of edgy, American flags on the sleeve. So we knew to be successful in this lane, we had to be culturally relevant. what are first responders into? And so I credit my brother a lot with a lot of that design work, because that's a lot of that's his vision coming to life. But that's intentional. It's we know what the first responders generally like, and we want to duplicate that or mimic that. So they are also, proud of our brand and wear our logo on their chest, right? But yeah, we started a merchandise line with t-shirts, hats, again, just patriotic t-shirts and things that are in line with our mission. You see the shirt I'm wearing here is a mock-up, kind of a spoiler alert for a 2025 conference, which will be themed bold as a lion. And we're getting inspiration for Proverbs 28:1 on that. And we started a coffee line. And it's funny, the coffee line started one way, just as we knew it's something first responders, we know we all drink coffee. Everybody's drinking it throughout their shift. We know first responders have a lot of brand loyalty to their coffee. But it took on a whole new meaning, because since I started throughout the mission of heroic deeds, I found myself in a lot of conversations with other first responders about their faith, and not by design, not intentional whatsoever. As I look back the last 3 years, I can't tell you how many conversations I've had with these cops and firefighters, maybe struggling with something, maybe needing encouragement, have been over coffee. And so really the coffee's become something completely different than we ever expected. And that's really, we're creating connection through that, through cups of coffee, sitting down with, our fellow police officers, firefighters, corrections officers, you name it. We're creating that connection. We're creating that, for lack of better terms, safe space to talk about these issues, because most of us don't want to talk about what we're dealing with, at work. We want to be outside somewhere completely neutral, because we feel a little more able to let our guard down. And we're having a lot of these conversations over coffee. Even some people we have, volunteers connected to our nonprofit now. One in particular, he's a retired corrections officer. He, throughout the course of his week, that's really what he does. He has coffee with cops and firefighters and tries to disciple them and help them, just kind of navigate challenges that they're going through. So coffee has really become a connection point. So we have a lot of attachment to that. And that's really, as far as our company, we're really trying to grow that part of it, because those things help 100% feed our ministry, of the nonprofit. So our conferences that we do, our devotionals, our chaplain programs, turns out all those things cost money. And we're a true nonprofit. Maybe this will change in time as we grow, but right now our nonprofit is all volunteerism. Nobody's getting paid from it. So we're through donations from local businesses and things, and people supporting us with their purchase goes a long way in helping us put these events on for first responders.
Ditto. You're preaching to the choir there, because we're in the same boat, and it does take a whole village from feeding first responders and who that person is, and that person they get noticed. People remember right. And they return on their own with their families to say thank you. But you know what? Just as it's important for police officers to meet and enjoy that cup of coffee together, to talk. It's even expanded. I think I saw on Instagram just the other day, my local department, a coffee with a cop at a local place, and it allows citizens to also have impact and conversation with their own department, because frankly, there are, and I want to say the bigger departments is what I've experienced. It's kind of like, hey, you've got a community that's relying on you. And we used to do this thing called community policing, right. And then things changed. And when police officers went from, two person, being in the community, walking a beat, to two in a vehicle, to now single rides, it's gotten, there's still a separation. And I think part of it, and there's faith behind that too, and belief in understanding that, bad apples exist in all professions, but we don't go and paint the entire profession from the acts of that one person. And I think that's where the importance if you have coffee with a cop in your community, to take advantage of that. Meet the chief, meet the lieutenant, whoever is there, meet some of the shift, talk to them, and talk about things that you're seeing in the community that they can address. It really does go a long way. And I love the designs that you have on.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Hey, you know what? We've been having an awesome conversation. When we come back with Chad, we're going to go over a couple of things, including how folks can put on their calendar right now for 2025, because you got a big conference coming up. So we will be right back after our next messages here.
Rise and vibe with your new elevated morning ritual. Meet Rise by Frequency. Frequency charged nutrition. Rise is formulated with a blend of 7 different organic mushrooms, B vitamins, amino acids, and green coffee bean extract. Rise supports brain health, performance, and focus while enhancing mood, mental clarity, and energy. Enjoy the delicious mango lemonade flavor while giving your mind the nutrients it needs. Get charged up with Rise. Fuel your body and mind today.
Hey, you guys have heard me talk about Rise and Vibe with me and John. Rise is in that class called a nootropics, and nootropics are believed to support healthy cognitive function, mental clarity, and overall brain health. Folks, I use Rise every morning as my pre-workout. If you are finding yourself just kind of not able to focus or not sit still to get stuff done, your mind's bouncing in a million different places, try Rise. It tastes delicious. It's completely healthy for you. It's got no sugar, keto friendly, help boost your mental performance, your brain health, get awesome energy, guaranteed there, mental clarity, creativity, motivation, concentration, alertness, and it helps with mood. If you're not such a morning person, maybe coffee isn't your thing, even though we were just talking about coffee, try some Rise right now. We have a special going on. If you go and visit a Badge of Honor Health.com, that's a Badge of Honor Health.com, you can subscribe and get Rise, as well as it's called Source. It's what everybody needs in terms of the essential minerals. I mix mine together. Tastes like a really awesome iced tea for a summer in Texas that just doesn't even want to end. I don't know what's going on with Mom Nature, but you want to get yourself focused and you want to do it without sugar. We don't want to be doing this all day. So Rise and Vibe with me and John. Visit a Badge of Honor Health.com and save when you subscribe. Now back to the show with Chad DePew. Chad, we're talking about how people can put right now on their calendar to come attend your 2025 conference.
Yeah, awesome. So our next conference is March 7th and 8th, 2025 here in the Dayton, Ohio area. And registration is not live yet. We got an exciting, really cool video we're putting together. Like you mentioned, marketing, we kind of like to go big with stuff. So we have a really cool announcement coming out in a couple weeks. All the information will be on our website, which is heroicdeeds.org. But spoiler alert, like I said earlier, this shirt gives a little bit of hint to our 2025 theme. Every year we try to create a theme that's meaningful to the first responders attending. So, our first one in 2022, again, based on everything that was happening in the country at the time, our first one was Conquer the Chaos. Then in 2023, with a theme of freedom. Our theme in 2023 was I Will Respond. And this year, our freedom was our theme. And next year, it's bold as a lion. And we're basing that off of Proverbs 28:1. And that verse says, the wicked flee when no one pursues, but the righteous are as bold as a lion. And it's not by accident we come up with these themes. There's a number of reasons we landed there, but the reason we went bold as a lion is because I have so many first responders coming up to us now that just feel empowered to talk about these issues, to talk about their faith. We had somebody, and It's no joke. The day we decided on this theme, had a detective come up, just happenstance, a local detective approached us and said, "Hey, after your event, I don't know what happened, but like I'm talking about my problems. I'm praying for people at the police department, and just they're just feeling more empowered to just go and be who share that part of their lifestyle and that part of their identity, of their faith." And so we really just want to tap into that. I think first responders are tired of being told to be quiet, to just wear that mask where you're an officer or you're a firefighter. When you're on duty, you're nothing else. I think they're tired of that. I think they want to be able to be open about not only struggles that they're experiencing, but open about their faith. So our theme for 2025 is Bold as a Lion. Again, the registration will be on our website in 2 weeks at heroicdeeds.org. And hope we can, pack the house out next year and get a lot of first responders there.
Well, that is a fantastic theme, and you can see the strategy year to year where you're moving. So hopefully after in a couple of weeks, things will be revealed where we're talking more about freedom, and we're able to do what we need to do, move around the country where we need to move, and be there for each other. I think certainly, using gratitude journal, starting my day in faith, talking to other first responders. So it's like, hey, just, ask the big guy upstairs for protection for yourself, for your shift, and for your chief to make wise decisions today, and for your community, because we know the power of prayer. Yep. I mean, we've all had, a first responder that has either fallen ill, being critically injured, or we've lost one. And when we can come together in faith and we do those prayer circles, we see some miracles walking out of hospitals every single day. So it is real. But we've got to do it together, and just absolutely love your message. Chad, we've had the website up and down. We've talked about heroicdeeds.org. That is the main page. Where else can people connect with you and or your staff on social media?
Yeah, we have Facebook, Instagram. So on Facebook, and both of them, it's just Heroic Deeds Done Dirt Cheap. Actually, literally today, because we're seeing some good momentum on both sides of the house, so to speak, with our merchandise and the nonprofit. We're dividing those out. So I got an awesome marketing team here locally. And again, you talk about prayer works. I'll give you a good example. Social media and some of our online presence, especially, left a little bit to be desired, because I'm trying to do it. And, I'll be honest, I'm not social media savvy, but I got connected to a great marketing firm in the area. And they're like, hey, we want to help you, and we're going to donate our time and our energy to making your all's website and social media just on fire.
That's
so
awesome.
we got a lot of changes coming up with both of those. But yeah, people can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and our website for the nonprofit is heroicdeeds.org. And a link to that is also our website for all the merchandise, which is heroicdeedsbrand.com.
Yeah. And again, when we end just here in a couple of minutes, go to the website, check out the merchandise. Again, if you like coffee, if John was here, we'd all be toasting. He's a coffee drinker, and check it out, because it is exactly the way you described, and people will be proud to wear the designs that your brother did. He's got a major creative side. I'll give it to him. That very, very impressed. Yeah. Chad, thank you so much for tonight, for spreading your messages of hope and faith, and hopefully it reignited in people like the message that you're not your uniform. Number one, that you are a human being. You need to be surrounded by other human beings that get you. Don't leave your family out of the conversations. And at the basis of it all is faith. Reach out to Chad. Reach out to your chaplain, or if you know somebody that wants to be a chaplain, get them connected with Chad through the website, and let's all move through the rest of this year and into 2025 with renewed faith and hope, not only for our nation, but for those that serve and our world, frankly. So thank you so much, Chad.
Yeah, thank you. And, another reason I'm so happy with the things we're able to do, we're able to remind first responders, a vast majority of the community still loves you and appreciates you and respects you, even though you don't see it in the media. And even our coffee, it's roasted here locally, but our coffee roaster, because they love first responders, they give us an incredible rate because they want us to be able to get the most out of those coffee sales to support first responders. So it's just a reminder that, our first responders, Jesus loves you and your community still loves you despite what you may see or hear in other areas.
Amen to that, for sure. Thank you, Chad. We will definitely be in touch.
Awesome. Thank you, Sam. Appreciate it.
You bet. Have a good one.
You too.
All right. So, just fantastic message tonight. Connect with Chad. Connect to his organization. Again, heroicdeeds.org. And, Chad said it best, is that the community loves you. You may not see it. We know we're on to the big box media. We know the messages of divisiveness that you send instead of the messages of hope and healing. So all first responders out there, you have got prayer warriors across the nation that pray for you every single day. So have faith in that you are not alone there. So we thank you so much for keeping our community safe. We are just coming off National First Responders Day, which was yesterday, and tonight's show is just dedicated to all the phenomenal men and women out there who put their lives on the line, not for a thank you, because it's here. We serve from here. We are called from a higher power. We are cut from a different cloth, and we expect nothing in return for our service. November 1st through 11th, our partners at Heroes on the Water. It's 11 days of supporting our veterans. You can reach out to heroesonthewater.org and find out more about how to participate there. And then Carry the Load. We are nonprofit partners with Carry the Load. You hear us talk about them all the time. They are having a 100,000 meter challenge. I am registered under me, Sam, and it goes from November 11th to December 11th. And all of us involved, we're trying to put together 100,000 meters collectively. So it's not you doing 100,000 meters. It's everybody collectively. The 100,000 meter challenge, honoring our veterans and our first responders out there. Get out of your own head. Get into some awesome physical activity. You can find out more at 100KM as in Mike, C as in Charlie.com. That's 100KMC.com. Or if you want to find out more and that website, just forget it, Sam, I'm not going to remember that. Just reach out to us at abadgeofhonor.org, and we have a little messaging space and say, hey, tell me more about that, and you can join our team. So for all of our veterans who, fought the good fight, to allow me and John and Chad to come on and say what needs to be said and do a show like this every single week, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts. To all of our active duty personnel spread out across the globe, right now, we are praying for you as well every single day. Thank you for what you're doing to keep our shores safe. Guys, put faith in your toolbox if you don't already have it there. If you do, expand it. There are so many. Read a devotional. Do a course with Chad and his group. You could go to the website to find out more, like he said. Expand it. We need it now more than ever. We thank you so much for tuning in. If you want to support, you can go to our website. Super simple. It's abadgeofhonor.org. You'll see a blue donate button. Click that. To everybody that supports the show, to everybody that's been supporting us, thank you so much. Know that every dollar collected goes right back into programming for our first responders so we can keep them healthy. And until next week, everybody, this is Sam signing off, and John will be back. We're thinking about you, brother. Take care.
A Badge of Honor podcast is produced for the OBBM Network podcast and protected under copyright law. For content permissions, please submit your request to abadgeofhonor.com on the content page. For OBBM Network programming information, please call 214-714-0495 today.